Halito y'all, Chimachukma. This is Chief Steve coming at y'all with another episode of True Story. Today we're going to be going through an interesting book. This is the Houses and House Life of the American Aborigines. This is going to be by Lewis Henry Morgan. And he was born in 1818, died 1881. Publication date of this particular book was in 1881. The topic regards the Indians of North America, the social life and customs, and the Indians of North America's dwellings. And this book is very interesting. We've went through it before, just showing you guys the fact that we did not live in huts or teepees as American Aborigines. We built houses, full-blown houses and apartments. We had tenements. And not only did we have a modern type of house structure, we had a particular type of, I guess you could say, a hierarchy or just a way of doing things. We regarded our women as our leaders for a lot of tribes. And before I get into this, I know a lot of our men, if you want to call yourself alpha or anything of that nature, I personally don't deal with the whole Grecian alphabet, whether you say you an alpha or this is a beta or whatever. But if you into all that and you got basically a inferiority complex, this passage may not be for you. But once again, I'm not going down, not beating down on my men, my fellow men. This is just a true story right here. Our women were our leaders, and we looked at them as such. And the whole village revolved around them. Okay? They were the makers and the movers. And we as men, we protected that way of life. We fought for it, and we helped keep it together, But our women were held in high regard, and it's always been that way. And you can even see it through our Aborigines today, or when they speak about their mother, our Aborigine men, they speak about their mother. Some get really emotional talking about how they feel about their mother, because they just have a strong relationship with them. And that's for good reason. And that's because, it's in our code, it's in our DNA. Our mothers have always looked out for us, and we've always looked out for our mothers. We've always protected our sisters, and our sisters have always protected us. So even within this matriarchal way of doing things, it was still an equal balance. Everybody had their role to play. So nobody was better than the other. Nobody was bigger than the other. But when it came down to making decisions, ultimately, what the woman said was taken in high regard. And then the men were the enforcers of that decision, But it's going to get into a lot of how we used to do things. Specifically, we're going to be looking into the Iroquois Confederacy. It speaks a lot about the Iroquois in this particular passage that I'm going to be going through. But once again, this is Houses and House Life of the American Aborigines. It speaks of other tribes as well, but today we're going to focus on the Iroquois and their longhouses, because they actually go into the building structure of the longhouses. And I have an image for you as well that I generated via AI, but by word for word in the passage. So I'm going to start experimenting with that a little bit, particularly with these parts, this series that I'm going to be going through in this book, because it gives a lot of vivid detail to our structures and our way of living. And, I'm trying to see if I can put this AI to the work, put it to the test, and see if they can bring something remotely, similar, resembling what the book is saying verbatim. So you don't just have to take my word for it. You don't have to just look at the book and imagine, you can actually kind of see what AI as of today would say, hey, this is what it looked like. That's what it is. So we'll get into that. And you may have seen the thumbnail of the image, and we're going to get a more closer up image of that as we go into the passage. But real quick, if you're new to my videos, I'd like to say Halito, welcome. Please like and subscribe. Like this video, comment. I'm always welcome to your comments. I'm always looking at them, seeing who I can respond to. Keep it positive, of course. No negativity, no hate. And be respectful of one another. And once again, welcome. And to my subscribers that are here, thank you for rocking with me so far. We are over 60 strong. I know we had hit a milestone at 50. We done gained more. We're over 60 strong now. So I'm real honored and, just real happy that you guys have decided to rock with me so far, and have decided to continue to, support me on this journey as we reveal the true story, the story that history has left out about our people. So once again, Yakoki, thank you so much for being a part of this journey with me and allowing me to be a part of your journey as you discover the true story, as our people, as we come together and we start to realize who we really are. It's a beautiful thing. So without further ado, let's get into the passage. Like I said, I have some image for you, a image, but this is basically going to be going over the house life, not only the structure of the life, but the housing as well. All right, here we go. We're starting on page 64 of this book. Once again, my sources are listed right there up top, archive.org. It's a reliable source. It's connected to a majority of the libraries in the world. And if you guys do have the heart to give, please donate to the site, as it's member supported and viewer supported. So they're not being funded by the government or anything of that nature. This is this is free information. At the same time, free doesn't keep the lights on. You know what I mean? It pays to have free information. So if you guys do ever run across archive.org and you see that little blue tab on top that says, hey, donate, by all means, do so, because this is a very reliable source. It's been a reliable source for a long time. And, this has our people's information here archived. So do what you can while you can. All right, here we go. Let's go zoom in a little bit. Zoom out. Here we go. All right. Our first illustration will be taken from the usages of the Iroquois. In their villages, they constructed houses consisting of frames of poles covered with bark 30, 50, 80, and 100 feet in length, with a passageway through the center, a door at each end, and with the interior partitioned off at intervals of about 7 feet. Okay? Each apartment or stall thus formed was open for its entire width upon the passageway. These houses would accommodate 5, 10, and 20 families. According to the number of apartments, one being usually allotted to a family. So these weren't just one big house. These had different apartments within these. They called it the longhouse, though. But it was different families living together within one. Each household was made up on the principle of kin, so everybody was related to each other. The married women, usually sisters, own or collateral, were of the same gens or clan. So when they say gens, they're talking about the same people, you know, and so it's gens or clan and generations as well. So I'll give a more more vivid definition, more clear definition of that right now in a minute. But let's finish this sentence. The symbol or totem of which was often painted upon the house, while their husbands and the wives of their sons belonged to several other gents. Okay? And so let me pause for the cause and show y'all what the definition of gents, because you're going to be seeing gents, gens, gentile, and I don't want you guys to get the wrong idea of what that is. So let me go ahead and give y'all a definition of that real quick. I'm going to pause for the cause and go to the Oxford Dictionary for that. All right, y'all, we're back. So I'm here at the Cambridge. So I said Oxford at first, but this is the Cambridge Dictionary. And this is the definition of gen. It's informal. It says it's short for generation, used when saying what age group someone belongs to or whether they belong to the first, second, etc. age group of people in their family to have a particular nationality. And it says to have a particular nationality. So, first gen Canadian, my mother's first gen Canadian. Or I would say that a lot of the newer gen of gamers don't really have the patience for these products anymore. So it basically is saying that we're talking about, when they're saying gen, they're talking about generations of people within these tribes. So when they say they're of the same gen, they're basically saying that they're of the same age group. All right, within the nation, within the nationality. And then you're also going to see, you're going to see gen, you're going to see gens, and you're also going to see gentile. So this is gentile right here. And I'm just going through these definitions for you guys so you don't get like, mixed up like, okay, well, according to the Bible, this and that and the other. But we're, because it does say, Jews and Gentiles and stuff. But there is a particular definition here that I was looking for. It was here. Let's see. Gentile. We know they're not Jewish. And we're not talking about that particular definition. Person who is not Jewish. We're looking for another particular definition. Give me 1 second. I just had it pulled up. Just give me 1 minute. Gent. Okay. Gent is also for people. Okay. So when they say gent, they're talking about folk, talking about people. That was their way of saying, that was the English way of saying gent or people, folk. Okay. And then let's see. I'm gonna pause for the cause and give y'all that exact definition that I was looking for Gentile. That's outside of the whole Jewish, or I don't know if they even want us to say that word on here, but outside of the whole biblical definition. I'm gonna pause for the cause and get that right back to you. Hold on 1 second. Okay, y'all, we're back. So this is the Oxford, the OED, and when you type in Gentile, you do indeed see the Gentile definition of a person who is not Jewish. But then you also see the other definitions here where it says of a person or a person's character, manner, etc., mild in disposition or behavior, kind, tender, amiable, good-natured, and, So, and so on. And then it says also right here, with reference to a person's behavior, interpersonal communication, mild, tenderly, kindly. And then this one right here, uh, specifically as well, taking note this definition, it says having the manners or lifestyle associated with people of high social position, or in later use of a superior social class. Um, then they're talking about the middle class, high class, and things of that nature. But they looked at us, you have to understand, they looked at us as ones being superior in civilization, in social structure, because for us to be called, primitive, or to be living in such a primitive state, as they would say, our state of our state of living was way more advanced than theirs when they came over here. They looked at the American Aborigines way of life and they saw it as something that was superior. Hence why they decided to stay here and then learn what we learn. Hence why we have these different antiquity books. They wanted to learn what we learn and adapt our ways. That's why you have so many, detailed books about our housing structures, the way we did things, our way of life, our family structures, because ours were superior to their way of life. And that's their words, not mine. As you see, when you see Gentile, that's what you need to keep in mind. So when you look and, see that people are labeling us as Gentile, it's not anything to have to do with, oh, they're not of this particular religious order or anything of that nature, or something to look down upon. Actually, it was something that they referred to us as, it was their way of referring to us as more superior. So, and we were good natured. We had mild tempers. We were people with good interpersonal communication skills. We were these kind of people. And that was something that they looked at and acknowledged us for. We've always been the blueprint. And so this was one of the words that they used to describe us as the blueprint, something to model after. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and go forward to the passage and get into it. So let's pause for the cause once again. We're going to go to the passage. All right, y'all, here we are. So right here, we're going to start at the top. It says the married women, usually sisters, own or collateral, were of the same gens. We know what gens are now, or clan. The symbol or totem of which was often painted upon the house, while their husbands and the wives of their sons belonged to several other gens. Okay? Folk, people, different tribes. The children were of the gens of their mother, the generations of their mothers. They were of their people. While husband and wife belong to different gents, different people, different tribes. The preponderating number in each household would be of the same gens, age group, or generations, namely that of their mothers. And people, groups of their mothers, tribes. As a rule, the sons brought home their wives, and in some cases, the husbands of the daughters were admitted to the maternal house. Okay? Everything revolved around the woman. Thus, each household was composed of a mixture of persons of different gents, or different tribes. But this would not prevent the numerical ascendancy of the particular gens to whom the house belonged. Okay? And it belonged to the woman's lineage. In a village of 120 houses, as the Seneca village of Teotahatan, described by Mr. Greenbaugh in 1677, there would be several such houses belonging to each gens. It presented a general picture of Indian life in all parts of America at the epoch of European discovery. So when they came here and when they so-called discovered this place, basically when they started coming in, they saw that this was how we used to live. Okay? This was the family structure. This was the general family structure. It says, whatever was gained by any member of the household on hunting or fishing expeditions or was raised by cultivation was made a common stock. Okay? So when we did this, we did it for the household. We didn't just do it for our particular family. We didn't just provide for our particular family. We provided for the whole house. It says, within the house, they lived for common stores. They lived from common stores. Each house had several fires, usually one for each 4 apartments, which was placed in the middle of the passageway and without a chimney. Every household was organized under a matron who supervised its domestic economy. After the single daily meal was cooked at the several fires, the matron was summoned, and it was her duty to divide the food from the kettle to several families according to their respective needs. Okay, so once again, it was that mother, it was that great mother, that grandmother that divided and made sure that everybody ate. The men hunted, we got the food, we provided for the house, and then it was the woman's job to make sure that everybody got the equal portion that they ate. Okay? What remained was placed in the custody of another person until it was required by the matron. The Iroquois lived in houses of this description as late as AD 1700. So they did this all the way up to the 1700s. Okay? Not that long ago. And in occasional instances 100 years later. So even into the 1800s. It says an elderly cynical woman informed the writer 30 years ago. So this was made in 1881. So this was 1851 when she told him that when she was a girl, she lived in one of these joint tenement houses called by them long houses, which contained 8 families and 2 fires, and that her mother and her grandmother in their day had acted as matrons over one of these large households. This mere glimpse at the ancient Iroquois plan of life, now entirely passed away, and of which remembrance is nearly lost, is highly suggestive. Okay? It shows that their domestic economy was not without method, right? So we weren't just doing, nothing, or we weren't just like disorganized and living like a bunch of Neanderthals or anything of that nature, a bunch of wild men. We actually had a system in place for our way of living, and it displays the care and management of woman. Okay, and then it says low down in barbarism, which is their word, barbarism. You can look that up for yourself. I don't subscribe to that word. I find it insulting. It says, low down in barbarism for husbanding their resources and for improving their condition. A knowledge of these houses and how to build them is not even yet lost among the Senecas. Okay? So it means there was still some people that, within that current time that still knew the ways. Right? This stuff is embedded deep within our culture, within our DNA. It says some years ago, Mr. William Parker, a Seneca chief, constructed for the writer a model of one of these longhouses, showing in detail its external and internal mechanism. All right, so we're going to pause for the cause once again. Like I said, I don't have official blueprints, but I did generate something through AI based off of what's been read so far, and this is just a general glimpse that you're going to see of what it may have possibly looked like. All right, so pause for the cause once again, and we're going to go to that. All right, y'all, we're back. So this is basically what AI had conjured up for us, a general idea as to what these houses would have looked like. And like I said, it was multiple houses, like 100. The book even said like up to 120 houses within one village, all consisting of multiple families. So these were multiple family units here. They weren't huts, they weren't teepees. These were straight up houses and apartments that we were living in. Okay? And this is what we were dwelling in all the way up until the 1800s, as it was said. We had multiple families, all coming from the same matriarchal line, or all tied to the same matriarchal line. And you had one or two matrons that controlled the house. And within these different factions, or within these different families, these women represented their different clans. Okay, but these were all multi-family units all consisting within the same family. So if you had, say your family reunion or anything of that nature, your women, our women, would be the representative of each family. Okay, and then each family had a dwelling within the longhouses. All right, consisting up to they can house up to, I believe it said up to 10, or from 5 to 20 families all in one longhouse. So this really doesn't even do it that much of justice, because it said that they were about 30 to 100 feet long, depending on how big the family was. So, like I said, this is a general attempt through AI to show what the longhouses and the family structure was like, or the housing structure was like. And like I said, these were multi-family units. These were apartments. These were houses and apartments. These were not huts. These were not teepees. We did not all gather into a tent and sleep on the ground. We had uh, we had bedding, we had furnishing, we had fires, we had cooking. We knew how to do things in a modern way. And it was modern. For what was modern for us was actually superior and more advanced than the European. And they acknowledged us as that. So this is what it is. So let's go on forward to the passage and wrap up. Alrighty, y'all. Let's wrap it up here. It says the late Reverend Assure Wright, D.D., for many years a missionary among the Senecas and familiar with their language and customs, wrote to the author in 1873 on the subject of these households as follows. As to their family system, when occupying the old longhouses, it is probable that some one clan predominated, the women taking in husbands, however, from the other clans, and sometimes for a novelty, some of their sons bringing in their young wives until they felt brave enough to leave their mothers. Usually the female portion ruled the house and were doubtless clannish enough about it. All right? And you can see the relativity of it today in some cases. And it says here, the stores were in common. But woe to the luckless husband or lover who was too shiftless to do his share of the providing. So like I said, even though the women was running everything, or they felt like, it was a matriarchal system that we had going on, the men still had a role to play. The men were still providers. And if you weren't doing your job, you're about to see what would happen. It says no matter how many children you had, or whatever goods he might have in the house, he might at any time be ordered to pick up his blanket and budge, as in they would kick them out. And after such orders, it would not be healthful for him to attempt to disobey. The house would be too hot for him. Okay? The house would be too hot for him. So that means no matter how many children you say, oh, I got all these kids, I made all these kids, I done brought all this stuff in the house. Look, when the woman said, let's go, it's time to go, hey, it's time to get up out of there. And if you want to do that stronghold, I'm an alpha male, I'm this, I'm that, man, you wasn't going to last too long in that house, because they said that house would be too hot for him. It's going to burn his ass up. Because you not only have the wife there, you got the grandmother, you got the mother, you got the aunties, you got all of them. And best believe they were warriors, just enough warriors as the men were. Okay? And it says right here, unless saved by the intercession of some aunt or grandmother, he must retreat to his own clan. So that means if the auntie or the grandma didn't speak up for you and say, "Oh, give them another chance," or let them be, let them, if no other matriarchs spoke up for you, you were gone. You either had to go back to your own tribe, or go back to your own clan, go back to your mama's house, And we see it today. Y'all know when I'm sure one person has experienced it in our Aborigine community. When a woman is fed up with a man, what she do? She get his stuff and they set it outside. And you already know, okay, that dude's in the doghouse, or you know what, it's worse than the doghouse. That dude's out the house. He gone. She ain't taking no more. And they used to do the same thing. And if the grandmother or the auntie didn't speak up for him, he was gone. He had to go back to his mama's house, Or like he said right here, he had to go and start a new matrimonial alliance in some other. So if he wasn't going back to his mama's house, he said, well, I ain't going back to my mama's house. I'm gonna just go ahead and marry another woman and go in somebody else's house. And then that's what it was. But the women, as it says right here, the women were the great power among the clans. As everywhere else, they did not hesitate, when occasion required, to knock off the horns, as it was technically called, from the head of a chief, and send him back to the ranks of the warriors. So even if you were a chief, even if you were a chieftain, they would still, if they felt like you weren't doing your job, and they decided to knock you down, knock you off, and get you out the house, you were demoted from chief back to warrior. And you had to go where you had to get in where you fit in at that point. Whether go back to your mama's house or go and marry some other woman and try to become a chief somewhere else. All right? This is just what it was. And you can even say this is what it is today. Because as hard as we are as men, we already know when mama say, we gonna do it. You know what I mean? And that even goes for wifey. Like, hey, it just is what it is. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, like I said, you wanna play alpha, you can make all the noise that you want to make, but I guarantee you, if that woman wants you out of her house, you getting out of that house for your own safety, for your own health. Don't nobody want that stress. I mean, forget the physicality. Nobody wants that mental and emotional stress of staying in a house with an angry woman, or they would call a so-called angry black woman. But we know this is way before we was even labeled black. An angry Aborigine woman. All right. Don't nobody want to stay in no house when an angry Aborigine woman is angry at you. You feel me? So it is what it is. And it says the original nomination of the chiefs also always rested with them. So that means that the women were the ones who elected the chiefs in the Iroquois Confederacy. The women were the ones who made the chiefs, who decided who was going to be chief. They decided which man was going to rule the clan. They did. So that's what I mean by the women had the power. The women, everything revolved around the women's decision. And the men enforced that decision as the chief. The men enforced that decision as the warrior, as the hunter. We provided, we took care, and we protected. But the power, the true power, you could say that the men, if you want to just latch on to testosterone or latch on to your, whatever you want to feel, masculinity, the men were the ones that allowed the women to have the power that they did in order to make those decisions. We were the foundation for that. We were the backbone for that. We enforced that law. You know, we enforced that power. And it's not even the whole thing of, well, and women did this, now the men, and the men did this, so now the women. Look, it wasn't even about all that. It was all about equality, balance. The women took care of the house. They took care of the children. They made sure that everybody ate. We hunted. We provided. We traded. We did everything that we needed to do in order to keep the house going, in order to make sure that there was resources in the house. And then from there, the women took care of the tribe. The women took care of the family, took care of the babies. There would be no future generation without the women's nurturing. And there would be no provisions for the future generations without the men's providing provisions. Without the man providing. It was an equal thing. Either way you look at it, it was an equal thing. And that's how it should be today. All right? So it says the mothers and their children. Let's go up here. It says the mother right and geneocracy among the Iroquois here plainly indicated is not overdrawn. Okay? The mothers and their children, as we have seen, were of the same gens, and to them the house belonged. It was a Gentile house, and we understand now what Gentile means. It was a Gentile house. Okay? It was of that Gentiles, that high superior, and that high superior construction or structure of housing. There, the system, the family system, was a Gentile type of living. It was a superior living compared to the European. In case of the death or father or mother, the apartments they occupied could not be detached from the kinship. Okay, so no matter if mama or daddy die, the kinship, the baby will always keep that house. Whoever was the kin, the remaining kin, kept that house. There were no evictions. Okay, you hear me? There was no evictions. We did not know anything about homelessness. Okay, nobody in our tribes went without a home. You feel me? Even that man that was hard-headed always had a home where? At his mama's house. All right? Or he would marry another woman. There would be another woman that'll want him. And maybe he'll act right with that woman. Because it's not always the man's fault. Maybe the woman just don't want him. Or maybe the man decided, hey, I don't want to be here. But either way how it goes, everybody still had a place to stay. There was no homelessness in our tribes. And it says right here, so it would not be detached from the kinship. It remained to its members. The position of the mother was eminently favorable to her influence in the household and tended to strengthen the maternal bond. Okay? We may see in this an ancient phase of human life, which has had a wide prevalence in the tribes of mankind: Asiatic, European, African, American, see how it's different, and Australian. Okay? All within these different civilizations, they have seen the matriarchal system exist and flourish. It says, not until after civilization had begun among the Greeks, okay, and Gentile society was superseded by political society. All right? So it's talking about politics versus the Gentile order versus that hierarchy order or that superior society order. Okay? And it says, was the influence of this old order of society overthrown? So the political society, what we know as the political society even today, where it's mostly what? Patriarchal. It's mostly dwelling around the man. Is the older, it overthrew that old order of society within modern civilization. Okay? And it says it left behind, at least among the Grecian tribes, deep traces of its previous existence. Okay, so they did have it at one point, but it's not anymore. And the Greeks were one of the ones who overthrew that society and made it more modern. And that's why you see, they mostly pattern today over Greek society and order. Okay. All right. So please close the door. Okay. So for example, or let's see right here. Let's go. Here we go. Last paragraph. Among the Iroquois, those who formed a household and cultivated gardens gathered the harvest. Okay. And stored it in their dwelling as a common stock. Now I was going into how we used to provide. There was more or less of individual ownership of these products and of their possession by different families. Okay? For example, the corn, after stripping back the husk, was braided by the husk in bunches and hung up in the different apartments. Okay? But when one family had exhausted its supplies, their wants were supplied by other families so long as any remained. So nobody went hungry. Everybody had their portion, and when they had exhausted their portion, one household exhausted theirs, they go and say, "Hey, family, you got some more corn, and then they'll give it to them as long as they had enough remaining. That family's gonna be provided for. Whatever was needed, nobody went without." And it says each hunting and fishing party made a common stock of the capture, of which the surplus, on their return, was divided among the several families of each household and, having been cured, was reserved for the winter. All right, so we looked out for each other through all the seasons, and we made sure that everybody had food. Nobody went without any food at any time. Nobody went without any housing at any time. This was how our villages were set up. It says the village did not make a common stock of their provisions, and thus offer a bounty to imprudence. Okay, so we had different varieties. We had different things. If we didn't have no corn, we had some squash. We didn't have no squash, we had some beans, we had something. You know what I mean? Something was being passed around. Something was always being prepared. We had meat. Everybody made sure that everybody ate. And it was the woman who made sure that everybody ate within that household. It says it was confined to the household. It says, but the principle of hospitality then came in to relieve the consequences. Let me see. Let me go back. It was confined to the household, but the principle of hospitality then came in to relieve the consequences of destitution. All right. They made sure that nobody, what destitution means. Destitution means the need, the want and need of something. So it was there. The hospitality was there to relieve that want, that result of want and need. There was nobody going hungry. Like I said, we can speak with some confidence of the ancient usage and customs of the Iroquois, and when any usage is found among them in a definite and positive form, it renders probable the existence of the same usage in other tribes in the same condition because their necessities were the same. So this was basically the blueprint from not only the Iroquois Confederacy, it was the blueprint for a majority of the tribes that dwelt on Turtle Island, that dwelt within Mayock, that dwelt within this system of living that the Europeans had came and so-called discovered, where they came and they found and they saw that it was more superior to their way of living. Hence why they had the different words to describe who we were and how we did things. But with all that being said, like I said, nobody went without. Nobody went hungry. Nobody went without any food. Nobody went without any place to stay. If your woman wasn't taking care of you, if the woman wasn't taking care of her husband and decided to leave that husband, or that husband was getting kicked out, that husband could always return to his mother. His mother always had a place for him. It was always a dwelling within the different matriarchal households, and they were all tied together, and they all had a basic understanding within one another as clans, as tribes, as family, to say, hey, even if one ain't acting right or one is being hard-headed, if anything's going down that, somebody don't like, they can always go to this house, or they can always have this place to stay. Even though you're not a chief anymore, you've been demoted back to that warrior state of mind, you still had a responsibility. You still had a job to do and a role to provide in the overall village, within the whole structure of things. So with that being said, you were going to dwell and you were going to live amongst the tribe. You're still being a part of the family, but you're going to make sure that a role is being taken part. And the woman always made sure that everybody did their role and everybody ate and everybody was well taken care of going into the future generations. And that teaching was taught and moved forward from there, so on and so forth, all the way up to the 1800s. But I'm saying that we can still see remnants of this way of doing and teaching today in our modern families, within our Aborigine communities today. Like I said, we went over those things, how, the man provides, the woman makes sure that the house is taken care of, and that's just how things went. That's how it is. That's how it always was. And that's how it always will be. And that's something that we have to go forward to as new generations going into this new way of living and coming into this new truth, this old truth, the true story, but coming into this truth yet again and realizing who we are as a people. This is something that we need to pattern ourselves after, making sure that our people, no matter what, our people do not go without. Our people are none of our people, none of our Aborigines out here should be homeless on their own land. None of our Aborigines out here should be hungry and starving on our own land. Okay? And this is just how it should be. This is how it was, and this is how it should be. All right? But that's pretty much it. That's all I'm going to stop at right now, because going into the next paragraph, we're going to be going into the Powhatans and how they did their thing. And you can see the similarities of how the Powhatans and the Iroquois did their thing. And then we're just going to go into the different structures, building structures and stuff and so on. So, this is just part one of the house and the household, the house structures and the household family structure. So once again, this is Chief Steve. If you made it all the way up to the end of this, please do your due diligence. Always study, always research. Don't take my word for it. The resources are right here. Always look and do your due diligence. Please like this video, comment, let me know what you think about it. Any sources that you need, let me know. I'll be happy to provide them for you. And subscribe. If you're new, subscribe. Hit the notification bell. I'm always dropping these bombs, at least one bomb a week. So just stay in tune, stay involved, and take care of yourself. Take care of each other. That's what we out here to do. That's what we are. We family, y'all. So, all right. Yakoki, thank you. Tatakista, I cherish you. See you again.